One of the best ways to see the great British countryside in all of its glory is, of course, on foot.
But which path to take is proven to be a contentious issue, as Joe Crowley discovers.
In some of the most picturesque parts of the country, a bitter power struggle is taking place between those who own private land and those who want the right to walk or ride over it.
David Perrin has a 400-acre farm which has been in his family for over 70 years. But 18 months ago, he suddenly discovered that 7 applications have been made for public horse paths or bridleways over his land.
Well, this is my farm. This is where our property starts when you come off of the public highway.
Yeah.
This is where I found the notice stuck on a fence rather than just walk through and knock on our door.
How did you feel?
Really angry. It's our private property. They're taking away your privacy. It devalues your home, they say about 40%. Running your business, your security, it's everything.
And that train is why you don't think this would be a suitable bridleway?
If you stood underneath there, the rumble in there is tremendous.
The application was made by the South Somerset Bridleways Association. Under the 1981 Wildlife and Countryside Act, anyone can apply to register a footpath or bridleway through someone's land if it's existed before, on historical documents, or if there's been access to it for 20 years or more.
How do you feel about the people that put in these applications?
I think that some of them are just fanatical on the calls. There's probably more bridleway applications in than there are horses.
Mark Weston from the British Horse Society signed the 7 applications for David's farm.
Horse riders and walkers and cyclists need these routes so that they can get off the local road network, which are becoming increasingly heavily trafficked, and the traffic on them is becoming faster, and it's not always a safe place.
It costs nothing to make the application, but if David wants to fight it, he'll incur legal costs. Fellow farmer Marlene Masters has spent the last 23 years fighting against a right-of-way on her land. It means the bikers in this footage have every right to ride straight through her dairy farm.
You've been fighting the public access to your land. How much does it cost you?
It has to be 100,000 plus, definitely.
You went all the way, didn't you? You
Yes.
went all the way to the Court of Appeal.
Yes.
In the end, you lost your case, so this is a public right-of-way still. But you're using that experience now to help people like David.
Absolutely. And I can point him to the correct case law. I can show him how it should be correctly interpreted. And I can suggest that he gets legal professional advice if he wants to pay some money to give him some satisfaction.
Each application can take years to resolve, but now the government wants to make things quicker. Under the new deregulation bill proposals, local authorities will inform landowners directly as soon as an application has been made and give them the chance to negotiate. Plus, the council will need to accept or reject the application within a certain time frame.
All right, guys, we're going to have a look today at a footpath that runs along this field here, then joins it by the river.
For the Rambling Association, this is not about creating new routes, it's about opening up old ones.
Can you understand, I mean, some landowners are a bit reluctant. They don't like new footpaths or new bridleways suddenly cropping up as they see it on their land.
It's human nature, though. You can't please everybody.
No. And you're obviously, all you guys would be big believers in people having access to the green spaces in our country.
Well, you think about it. I mean, this is part of our heritage. I mean, it's if we were looking at a historic building and you're proposing to just knock it down, there'd be a huge outcry. We're talking here of something which has been in existence for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
You know, why would we not treat it in exactly the same way as one of those buildings?
The Ramblers say they have history on their side, but landowners like David disagree fundamentally with reopening long-forgotten historic routes. Compromise won't be easy.
Well, Joe joins us now. He's taken the weight off his feet. Good lad. Now, I have witnessed many a dispute between ramblers and landowners. But do you think this new bill, Joe, do you think it will mean fewer disputes?
I don't think it will, actually. I mean, it's a very contentious area. People feel very strongly on both sides. What the bill's going to do, hopefully, is speed up the process. So it might bring things to a head a bit quicker. You might get to the dispute quicker, but I don't think it will mean there's fewer disputes. I mean, the big picture here is, in this country, we are trying to create a definitive map of the whole of the British Isles, really. And we want to show where all the public rights of way on. And we haven't really got there yet. And lots of people are making applications. And now the government has set a cut-off date at 2026 by which all new applications for historic routes have to be on this map. Thus, I think we're seeing a rush of applications at the moment because they can take years to process, and thus all the disputes.
Yeah, and one of the suggestions we saw in the film there was that the new bill would include maybe more negotiations between the landowner and the people who want the right of way. But do we think that can work? Because going by what we saw there, it's going to be pretty tough, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, certainly negotiation will happen sooner. So that's a really good thing, because landowners will be involved from the start. David, the landowner, wasn't told about it for quite a while, so at least he can get involved sooner, which will help. But whether actually people negotiate, I don't know. David, the landowner, and Mark, who made the applications, had never actually met. Right. So we brought them together for the first time. It got a bit heated.
It didn't look like a great meeting of the minds, I have to say.
No, well, let's have a look at this.
So Mark, bridleway applicant, meet David, farmer.
No, thank you.
No shaking of hands?
No shaking of hands. No, thank you.
OK, so David, tell Mark what your problem is with the applications.
Well, my problem is, first of all, you want to have the decency to inform a landowner.
Well, there are two ways that the legislation says you have to notify the landowner or occupier, and one of those is by serving notice on them at their address, or if you can't ascertain who a landowner is or an occupier is, then the council can authorise you to put notices up, which is what has happened here.
I just think maybe sort of communications and relationships break down here if things are seen to be a bit underhand. I mean, couldn't it have been face-to-face notification?
Well, the communication was not underhand. It complied with the legislation. As I say, we're quite happy to discuss with Mr. Perrin the applications.
Haven't you got enough places to ride your horses?
That is why more rights of way are needed, is because there aren't the places to walk, cycle and ride.
As for the footpaths, there is one 50 yards that side of the river, and there is one 100 yards that side, and now you want one up through the middle.
Well, horse riders, of course, aren't allowed on footpaths.
Well, people are furious with what you are doing, absolutely furious. And for you not to recognise it is even worse. I think it's sheer arrogance. Sheer arrogance.
Do you feel for people like David, like landowners who suffer incredible stress through this process, and it seems very tough on them?
Well, I understand that some people can feel stress about it, but I don't think there is any need. That they are valid applications.
You can sit there and you can smirk about it because you know that it costs you nothing and it's draining my finances all the time. And it's very simple to say, oh, the farmers shouldn't worry. You're just on another planet. That's the way out. The quicker you off of my property, the better, all right?
Well, now, I spoke to Mark after that. I mean, he was fairly unapologetic, didn't feel he'd done anything wrong, abided by the law and did, everything he had to legally. But you can understand why David's so upset there. He feels these have been magicked out of nowhere. They exist on a historic map, but there's never been a bridleway in his lifetime there, or in his family's lifetime. So he feels really put upon.
And bridleway is very different to public footpaths.
Yeah, as we learned there, you can't
that's
ride
the
a
thing.
horse on a footpath.
No, you can't.
We know you're a keen walker, Fiona.
I am.
Do you sympathise at all with David?
Well, I have to say, I think the chap in the red jacket not shaking hands was probably not doing himself any favours.
No.
But, I mean, thing is...
the farmer that wouldn't shake his hand, actually.
Oh, it's farmer wouldn't shake his hand. Oh, well,
apologies,
apologies, man in red jacket. But you just saw that and thought... I mean, I was walking only a couple of weeks ago, and the footpath took you through the back of someone's garden. And as I walked past, I could see into their dining room and they were having their Sunday lunch. So I sort of felt... I felt really bad.
Well, we have public footpaths on our farm, and the thing was, we actually got one diverted from around the house. It used to go round through the farmyard, and actually it was quite unsafe for ramblers to go around there. And actually the Ramblers Association were quite key in us getting it diverted, and we said, look, would you rather walk along there through that open field, you can see what's coming, And they said yes, and the footpath got diverted.
And that's what the bill is supposed to do.
That's
Because if you
exactly,
involve
yeah.
landowners at the beginning, they can say, OK, you want this footpath, but how about you don't go through my backyard? How about you just go round it? And at least then that's the negotiation we're talking
Yes.
about. In this case, it doesn't really work because, you know, David, the landowner, seems that's too excessive to have 7 bridleways coming from
Yes.
nothing on your
I mean,
farm.
I have to say, just to put it on the other side of the coin, sometimes when I'm walking my dog and there's a path that I want to go down and I know it's my right to go down it, but the landowner locks the gate, even though it is a...
Well, that is
path.
absolutely wrong, and you
Yeah.
have to keep them clear. You can't grow crops across them, you can't park machinery
Mm-hmm.
across them, you can be prosecuted.
We have to keep stiles.
Stiles
you
and
know,
gates are the
yeah.
responsibility of landowners, and local authorities should keep all the other parts of a path open as well.
Don't lock that gate,
Thanks,
Matt.
Jo.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Keep an eye on you.
Right.
Now,